Horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you'll endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak a streak and waste your time of day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one'll talk till his voice is hoarse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this. I am Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak a streak and waste your time a day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one'll talk till his voice is hoarse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this. I am Mr. Ed. Hello. I hope you all know me. If by some accident we may not have met, my name is Mr. Ed. I'm a horse. Don't be surprised, I'm a talking horse. And if you'll pardon the expression, famous for my horse sense. Let those singers through. They're with me. Welcome, singers. Very few people have horse sense. For that matter, I can't seem to recall many horses with people sense. This is your lucky day, and I say this with capital letters, I'm endowed with both horse and people sense. Have 'em both. What's the difference, you ask? Allow me to explain. It's raining hard, and if you go out without a hat, raincoat, and rubbers, you get wet and catch a cold and sneeze. Naturally, that's good old horse sense. Now, here's where people sense comes in. It's different. It's scientific. It's, you go out into that rain we just talked about and catch a cold. Now, here's the people sense. When you sneeze, your eyes will shut. You can't sneeze with your eyes open. That's it. That's people sense. It's scientific. And remember, you heard it from me, straight from the horse's mouth.
Pearls, gems, words of wisdom straight from the horse's mouth. Just some super extraordinary facts. When Mr. Ed tells them to you, it's a sure bet that they're true. Here's a fact, a faultless factual fact.
Schools were first started by the ancient Greeks. They had a word for it, sholeo. Boy, have I got a word for those Greeks. The English invented the baby carriage. The French invented the parachute.
That's a fact, a faultless factual fact.
When you scream for ice cream, remember the Italians invented it over 400 years ago. And did you know the Chinese invented fireworks and the compass and noodles, and that the American Indian cultivated corn long before television was born?
That was fact.
The ancient Egyptians were the first to domesticate the cat, and there are 28 million cats and 23 million dogs in this country.
That's a fact, a faultless factual fact. Pearls, gems, words of wisdom straight from the horse's mouth.
Did you know there are trees growing at Mount Vernon that were planted by George Washington, or that there are over 134 million telephones in the world?
That's a fact, a faultless factual fact.
A snail's pace is rather slow. They travel at the rate of 10 feet an hour. The cheetah is the fastest land animal. He can run up to 84 miles an hour. Racehorses can travel at the rate of 40 miles an hour.
Pearls, gems, words of wisdom straight from the horse's mouth. Just some super extraordinary facts. When Mr. Ed tells it to you, it's a sure bet that they're true. It's a fact, a faultless factual fact.
I enter smiling, bowing, and swinging my beautiful tail. Now let's start out by being friends and see where that gets us. At this point, a bewildered stagehand is holding up a card in front of me that says, "Tell a joke." Well, a funny thing happened to me on my way down to the recording studio. No, that would only get me a horse laugh. Let's face it, I'm a horse of a different color. Pardon me while I spray my throat. I think I'm getting a little hoarse. Now that we have those out of the way, it brings me gracefully into my next subject, namely, how I got the bird. How about the birds? Singers?
Big birds, small birds, some short and tall birds, though here is a saying often heard. Birds of a feather always flock together, and anything with feathers is a bird.
How small is a hummingbird? He's pretty small, and so are hummingbirds' eggs. They're a little bigger than the head of a match. Match that. On the other hand, an ostrich egg is equal to 18 hen's eggs. Show me a frying pan to hold that one. Now here's some people sense. It takes 3/4 of an hour to hard boil an ostrich egg. That's why you'll hardly ever find it on a quick lunch menu. I don't think that makes as much sense as horse sense. And speaking of ostriches, the talk is that they can run as fast as a horse. Well, I had a race with one of those birds. I was younger then, and I beat him. The judges disqualified me. Something about illegal holding. Singers?
Red birds, green birds, some in between birds, the blue bird's a sign of happiness. Birds of a feather always flock together. The peacock is the fanciest, I guess.
He eats like a bird is supposed to mean he eats very little. Let me tell you, a tiny robin redbreast eats 14 feet of earthworms in one day. That's the same as a man eating a hamburger sandwich the size of an automobile.
Dumb birds, smart birds, and culinary art birds, ducks, geese,
and chicken fricassee.
Birds of a feather always flock together.
A turkey's goose is cooked Thanksgiving Day.
Now cut that out. Rhyme on your own time. When the people of Europe first saw the turkey that Cortez brought back from the Aztec Indians of Mexico, the people thought they came from the east, from Turkey, and that's how it got its name. If that hadn't happened, we would be sitting down to a Thanksgiving dinner of sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, and stuffed Aztec Indian. Did you ever try stuffing an Aztec Indian?
Weak birds, strong birds, some are known as songbirds. Hark to the sound of the lark. Birds of a feather always flock together.
The mockingbirds are whistling in the dark. Now you've got me doing it. Then there's the one about the duck hawk. He flies as fast as a slow aeroplane. Duck, it's a hawk.
Wild birds, tame birds, some are known as game birds. The pheasant's a pleasant sight to see. Birds of a feather always flock together. And a partridge in a pear tree.
Did I ever tell you about the medicine bird of Borneo? Its colors are so beautiful that the witch doctors believe that the sight of this bird cures a sick child. The sight of one of these witch doctors got the child sick in the first place. And don't forget that one about which came first, the chicken or the egg. The Bible answers that in the book of Genesis. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth." So the answer is, the chicken came first.
How?
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 How many times a day do you ask a question that begins this way?
How many this?
And how many that?
And how did elephants get so fat?
And how do they make a baseball bat?
How many bombs in Bombay?
Well, what have you got to say? How many times a day? Oh, won't you tell us, won't you tell us? How many times a day?
I don't know how many times a day you ask a question, but the more you ask, the more you learn. For instance, how do they make a baseball bat? Baseball bats are made from the wood of the ash tree. After the wood has dried for several years, it is placed on a lathe and shaped. Yes, sir, among men who know Little Leaguers best, it's ash wood bats 2-to-1.
How is chewing gum made?
Chewing gum is made from the juice of the bully tree, which grows in Central America. The juice is boiled down until it becomes a thick rubbery cake called chicle. It is then shipped to a factory where flavoring is added and it is cut into various shapes.
How does gelatin gel?
Gelatin is a protein substance which dissolves in hot water. As the liquid cools, invisible strands of gelatin hold the water very tight, swelling up to an elastic, transparent mass.
How are foods frozen?
Scientists learned about frozen foods from our friends the Eskimos. If food is frozen quickly, bacteria does not have a chance to form and thus spoil the food. The Eskimos froze their food so they would have enough to last them through the long, hard winter months when hunting and fishing were impossible.
How do clothes keep you warm?
On a cold day, heat from your body escapes more readily. The warmest clothes are those that keep the heat from escaping. So you can say that clothes keep you warm by keeping your body's heat next to you.
How cool is a cucumber?
A cucumber isn't cool at all. Scientists have discovered that the inside of a cucumber is often 20 degrees hotter than the surrounding air.
How long does it take to count 1,000,000?
If it takes you a minute to count up to 100 and you count for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, it would take you 3 weeks to count 1,000,000.
How do flies manage to walk on the ceiling?
A fly has a suction cup on each of its 6 feet. This allows it to walk anywhere. There are other insects that are equipped the same way. How now, brown cow? I'm doing so well I may take up acting. Can you imagine me as a doctor in a TV doctor western? Don't laugh. It's going to have to happen. I can see it now, flashing on the television screen. Western veterinarian starring Fast Draw, 2-gun, have pills, will cure, Dr. Ed. Boy, I'm going to the dogs, which reminds me about a song.
There's 1,000,000 kinds of animals under the big bright sun. Some can hop around the ground and some can even run. Some can swim and some can fly, some of them can crawl. So let's put on our thinking caps and try to name them all.
The highest of vertebrates, including man, is called a mammal, and they have 2 characteristics. They all have hair or fur, and they all nourish their young with milk.
Horses, tigers, tall giraffes, cute little pigs that squeal. Lynx and lion, mouse and mink, the walrus and the seal. Cows and sheep, rhinoceros, deer and caribou. The chimpanzee, the quick brown fox, the monkey in the zoo.
All animals are built of tiny blocks of living material called cells. The animal world is divided into distinct categories, and the next group is an animal that has a backbone and lives in the water. We call it a fish.
Speckled trout and big sea bass,
Flounders and porgies too.
Smelt and salmon,
Pickerel, pike,
swordfish and wahoo. Blues and stripers, mackerel, cod,
tuna fish and bream.
There's yellow perch
and red-horned dace,
and minnows in the stream.
Then there is the insect family.
Beetles, spiders, katydids, mantises that prey.
June bugs, crickets,
Ants and gnats that work throughout the day.
Grasshoppers and tsetse flies, termites, moths and fleas. The mite and the mosquito and the buzz and bumblebees. There's another class of animals
that has the name reptile.
lizards, snakes, and turtles,
And the cranky crocodile.
One more group ends up the list in our catalog. Amphibians, the newt, the toad, and our friend Mr. Frog.
Of course, none of these animals talk the way I do.
Must be millions, maybe 1 billion animals under the sun.
Of course, another member of the animal kingdom which we mentioned earlier is the bird. By the way, did you know that the statement straight as a crow flies is not correct, and a beeline isn't straight either? Both the crow and the bee zigzag all over the place. A grasshopper has 5 eyes, nearly as many as my mother when I do something wrong. And don't tell me that I'm talking through my hat, because the only thing that goes through my hat are my ears. That sure is a fact. There's a hat for every occasion. That's sure a fact you can bet. For a hat can tell you many things. Where you live, what you do, is it sunny or wet?
So let's get a simple list up, and we'll see if you agree. There's a hat for every occasion,
Even for a horse like me.
the policeman's hat for a starter is a good one, it's sure neat. The visor keeps the sun from his eyes as he bravely walks his beat. And the next time that you see a hat upon a man in blue, you will also see it has a badge with its number there to view.
Say, did I ever tell you about my experiences with the Canadian Mounties? No? Well, to continue, a sombrero is a hat. You have seen it on TV. The cowboys south of the border wear it for you to see. It protects them from sun and rain, comfortable to use. They can always pull it over their eyes when they want to take a snooze.
A beret is worn by Frenchmen, some wear 'em, it's true. But did you know that Spanish men, why they wear berets too? And an English soldier's uniform, so snappy and so neat, is topped off by that spunky little hat to make his uniform complete. Now the fireman wears a special hat when he answers an alarm. It's big and strong and black and white, and it keeps him safe from harm. But he doesn't like to wear it unnecessarily. So don't you play with fire, it's his natural enemy.
Now the last hat in our hat parade is the one I hope you'll wear upon a January morn in a place that's fine and fair.
It's a high hat and you wear it at a special big event.
You wear it on that grand day when they make you president. And I hope you grow up to be president someday.